Molly is a spunky little girl, probably the most flexible person you've ever met in your entire life. Anything that is of the quantity of 3 is considered a collection. She loves all of her collections. She looks at the world differently and has always looked at the world differently. She's very creative in her mind.
Molly and I will break out into song at a random moment, really anytime. We have a lot of inside jokes that just appear out of nowhere.
Molly is funny. She is the sweetest little girl. She is a snuggler, always has been. She is very passionate about the things she cares about.
It was after the first week of summer vacation, and after Molly's first week of sail camp, she came up to me on a Friday and told me that her foot hurt. And I told her to suck it up because it was probably just the shoes. After the weekend, her foot was still hurting her tremendously, and she was in excruciating pain. And we realized that it was probably a little bit more than the shoes. So we took her to the ER, and we had an x-ray done because we just assumed it was a broken bone. X-rays came back, and she didn't have a broken bone. So set up an appointment with our pediatrician that Monday. This is only 3 days later. And our pediatrician took some blood samples and said, come back, we'll take another look. So we came back, did some more blood samples. That was a Wednesday. She told us that day that we needed to go to the nearest emergency room downtown. And so we drove to University Hospital's Rainbow Babies, and Molly was diagnosed with ALL, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, with high risk chance of recurrence.
Well, I was actually there when she was first diagnosed, and it was the scariest day of my life. I had no idea what was going to happen or what was going on.
When your child's diagnosed with cancer, everything else in your life just stops. It becomes the only thing that you do, the most important thing in the world. That first summer, we spent the whole summer in the hospital. Kelly was living with her grandparents most of the time. We had to go back in for 4-day treatments all through the winter, and then in February of 2016, Molly got really sick. She had a reaction to one of the medicines that shut down her liver.
That's when you didn't think that things could get worse. The good news is we were the lucky ones. We made it through.
When Molly started the treatment, she was not what you would describe as a tough kid, but she sure is now. Molly said to me one time, "It's part of me now, and I think it's all for the better," as hard as it was while it was going on.
We are very fortunate that I think our humor got our family through this event, which could have really taken us to a darker place. We, at one point, decided we had a choice. We could either be bitter or we could be better. And we wanted to be better. And we are in a better place because of it.
Stanley is the biggest goofball that I know. He really wants to make people happy. He really wants to make people laugh. He does everything he can to bring joy to people wherever we are.
He loves the Flash. He loves PJ Masks. He loves running. He loves playing, laughing, blowing bubbles.
Something that Stanley and I like to do together is he dances a lot because of me. He is very talented and comes up with a lot of new moves.
He's really just a sweet, caring little boy who just wants to make every day as fun as he possibly can.
Just is an overall happy-go-lucky little kid who 9 times out of 10, if you looked at him, you would never know he was sick.
Stanley was diagnosed when he was 13 months old We had no idea he was sick. We actually went to the ER because we believed he swallowed something. He was gagging and drooling. By the time we got to the ER, there was nothing wrong with him, but I figured since we had gone that way, we should probably just err on the side of caution, make sure he was okay. The ER doctor did a really thorough exam and noticed that his spleen was enlarged. From that, he ordered a whole bunch of labs, x-rays. You could tell he was concerned, and it was about 6 o'clock at night when we went there. About midnight, they told us we were being transferred to the Cleveland Clinic. They wouldn't really give us a lot of information, but obviously, you know at that point something is wrong. It was about 5 a.m. when we got transferred to the clinic. And even though they didn't tell us anything, when you turn the corner and they were wheeling you to the hematology oncology ward, you kind of know there's something really serious going on.
Nothing good can come from that floor. And by Thursday night, we had found out that he was diagnosed with leukemia. And Friday morning, they were putting his port in, starting treatment.
And then you just sort of sink into reality where your new normal is multiple clinic visits each week, him getting poked all the time, him losing his hair. In the very beginning, he was 13 months old. He'd been walking 3 weeks. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, Stanley is gone. There's just this kid who grunts at me for food and cries and can't communicate and can't walk and can't play, and I'm never going to get my son back again. But then you go into the second phase and it's a whole new battery of drugs, and he was smiling again and came back, and kind of realized this is going to be a roller coaster ride of ups and downs and all sorts of twists and turns and things you don't know what's going to be coming.
The hardest thing seeing my parents go through is probably the struggle overall. It's like missing out on a lot of things because we can't get sick or Stanley can't get sick. But just watching someone deal with something like that and watching my parents take care of it is just more rough than most people would imagine.
Stanley is in the long-term maintenance, which becomes monthly visits to the outpatient for a IV chemo, and then every 3 months he gets a lumbar puncture with methotrexate, which is another form into his spine. We give him daily chemo at home that is every night, and then a weekly one on Tuesdays that we have to give him as well.
We're still kind of in the thick of it. He's not going to be done for almost another year, so we don't really know what the next year is going to be like, but it's definitely been a very harrowing journey, and it's not been easy by any stretch of imagination.
Thank you for supporting LLS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I cannot thank all of you enough for all the time and energy that you've put into raising money for such a great cause.
Thank you.